Well, welcome to Journey 3, Learning to Talk, which is all about prayer. It is all about truth, and it's all about faith, how we live in those three aspects of our life. Last week we talked about just that, the best spiritual meal that you can have, and that is to read God's Word, to live God's will, and to do God's work. And that should just fill you up with just a lot of strength and encouragement. God's Word and God's will and God's work. Man, when you're doing all those things, it's just the best that we can live and the best that we can be. So I'm just so blessed that we had a chance to go through that. Healthy believers not only need that, but we need to talk with God. We need to have a conversation, right? When you are best friends, when you're close with somebody, you just spend time talking with them all the time and just sharing life, and that's what God desires from us. And we're going to talk about prayer, about truth, and about faith. Understanding what prayer is and how to pray, learning the 7 facets of effective prayer, learning 6 reasons why prayers aren't answered. Why am I praying and it's like it's bouncing off the ceiling, I'm not getting answers? Learning the difference between absolute truth and just relative or subjective truth, and then understanding what faith is and how to live by it. So step 1 is understanding words of prayer. Prayer is an invitation. Prayer is talking with God. Prayer is also a powerful personal tether. It's like an anchor we call hope. I love Jack Hayford. Jack Hayford says that prayer is invading the impossible. Prayer is saying, God, would you invade the impossible of my life? Stepping out in faith. Prayer, listen, it doesn't have to sound religious. Prayer doesn't need to sound like somebody else. It needs to sound like it's coming from your heart. Step 2 is understanding words of truth. Listen, I believe truth is absolute. I do not believe we live our own truth. It's just too subjective. And Jesus said this in a very absolute way: I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. Nobody gets to the Father but through me. That's pretty absolute. Jesus is the only way. He is the only truth, and He is the only life, and He is the only way to get to the Father. Those are His words. Step number 3 is understanding words of faith. What is faith all about? St. Augustine said this, let me read it. Faith is to believe what you do not see. The reward of this faith is to see what you believe. Faith is all about giving up our worldly agenda and surrendering to the one who shapes us in our mother's womb and seeking out Him. We live and believe that God is going to lead us into a plan for our life that is not tethered to worldly approval. Right? God's plan and God's best has nothing to do with what this world says is best. God's plan is amazing, and too often I think we tether our hopes and our dreams to the things of this world. And don't get me wrong, we have to work and we got to relate to other people, and there's awesome, amazing things that we do, but our value and our purpose is not based on what the world can give us. Like right now when I'm filming this, we're in the midst of this pandemic, we're in the midst of this corona thing, and everything has been stripped away. And if you have a foundation of faith and belief that God has all things under control, then you're going to be okay in times like this. Life is lived in freedom and purpose because your belief, like an anchor that holds a ship, is held secure by the will of an omnipotent Father, an all-powerful Father. I'm not tossed here and there by the latest whim of culture, the latest ideas of culture, the latest of cultural values. I don't have to prove anything. I just simply rest knowing that God sees what I don't see and controls what I can't. Well, next week we're going to talk about Journey 4, which is understanding my new family. What is this church family all about? Well, be blessed, investigate, ask questions, and be loved on by each other. Again, thanks for taking this journey. I can't wait to see what God does, and I can't wait to hear what God does in your life and your group.